Million-dollar pots, private jets, the ultimate high-stakes life. These poker legends had it all, until they lost everything. From Vegas penthouse suites to rock bottom, this is the story of how poker's most feared players watched their empires crumble. Amarillo Slim wasn't just a poker champion. He was poker's first true celebrity. Known for his southern drawl, flashy cowboy hat, and endless stories, Slim could charm just about anyone. When he won the 1972 World Series of Poker main event, he didn't just take home the prize money, he became a legend. Slim knew how to work a crowd, and he made poker entertaining at a time when it was barely known outside of backrooms and casinos. Slim didn't stop at just winning. He appeared on talk shows, rubbing elbows with stars like Johnny Carson and Merv Griffin, telling stories that stretched the truth just enough to keep people hooked. He'd talk about playing poker with presidents, betting on pool games against billiards legends, and once even claimed he had raced a horse, on foot. It didn't matter if it was all true. People loved Slim for his tall tales. In the eyes of his fans, he wasn't just a poker player. He was an American folk hero, a man who embodied the thrill of risk and the charm of the Wild West. But behind the charming cowboy persona, Slim's life took a dark turn. In 2003, he was arrested and faced shocking allegations of child molestation involving a family member. The news rocked the poker world. Fans who had once idolized him were stunned, and the poker community found itself facing one of its first major scandals. Slim denied the accusations, but eventually he pleaded no contest to a lesser charge of misdemeanor assault, claiming he did so to avoid dragging his family through a painful trial. Still, the damage to his reputation was irreversible. Slim's legacy took a hit that no poker win could repair. For the poker community, the cowboy charm now looked like a mask hiding a darker side. Once the golden boy of poker, Slim's name became synonymous with scandal and suspicion. Poker fans who once celebrated his wild stories now saw them as part of a carefully crafted facade. Slim tried to continue playing, even made occasional appearances at tournaments, but the respect he once commanded was gone. He was no longer the larger-than-life character who could make people laugh. He was the player with a shadowed past, a reputation forever scarred. Even after his death in 2012, Amarillo Slim's story remains one of poker's most complex. He was a man who brought the game to the mainstream, who made poker feel like a thrilling adventure. But his life off the felt added a darker chapter to that story. Today, he's remembered as both a pioneer and a cautionary tale. A reminder that in poker, as in life, image, and reality, can be worlds apart. Nick Schulman didn't just win a poker tournament, he stormed the scene like a hurricane. At 21, he took down the World Poker Tour's Foxwoods Finals, raking in a staggering $2.1 million. To the world, it was a dream come true. Schulman had the calm focus and icy precision of a player twice his age, and with that massive payday, he was now one of poker's rising stars. This wasn't luck. This was skill, and everyone knew it. But poker can make you feel invincible. With all eyes on him and a fortune in his hands, Schulman embraced the high life. He wasn't just playing poker, he was living like he'd already made it. The lifestyle got lavish, the games got bigger, and his bankroll started to take some serious hits. Schulman thought he could keep winning it back. But poker isn't that simple. Luck always has the final say. Before long, the game started turning on him. As the losses mounted, Schulman's once massive bankroll began to vanish. Each bad beat stung a little more. Suddenly, the high life came with a steep price. His confidence took a hit, and he was forced to borrow just to keep a seat at the table. He wasn't the fearless prodigy anymore. He was a young player fighting to stay afloat. Every hand, every dollar mattered. For the first time, Schulman felt the brutal reality of poker's swings. It was a wake-up call. Schulman knew he had to change, or he'd be another name on the list of fallen poker prodigies. So he adapted. He cut down on spending, played smaller games, and sharpened his skills. Slowly, he climbed his way back. The experience hardened him, and his understanding of the game deepened. Schulman didn't just want to win, he wanted to master every move, every calculation. He knew this game wasn't about being the flashiest. It was about staying in it for the long haul. His comeback wasn't just about survival. Schulman became one of poker's most respected voices, a sharp-eyed commentator who knew every trick, every trap. Fans listened closely, knowing they were hearing the insight of a player who'd been through it all. His quiet confidence and gritty experience brought a new level of respect. He wasn't just a former prodigy. He was a poker veteran who'd paid his dues. Nick Schulman's story isn't just about one big win. It's a lesson in resilience, in learning from your mistakes, and in understanding that poker success isn't just about the cards you hold. It's about how you play the bad hands, too. In a world where fortunes rise and fall overnight, Schulman fought his way back from the edge. He's a reminder that in poker, talent will only take you so far. It's the grit, the determination, and the willingness to rebuild that make you a legend. Ted Bignan. Ted Bignan wasn't just another poker player. He was Las Vegas royalty. The son of Benny Bignan, the founder of the World Series of Poker, Ted grew up surrounded by high-stakes gambling, mob connections, and the allure of the Vegas underworld. He had the charm, the money, and a taste for high-stakes action that kept him constantly in the spotlight. But behind the glamorous image, Bignan's life was spiraling out of control. Known for his wild lifestyle, Ted wasn't just addicted to gambling. He was also hooked on drugs and lived dangerously close to the edge. His highs and lows were legendary in Vegas. One day, he'd be winning big at the tables. The next, he'd be in trouble with the law or battling personal demons. But Ted Bignan's life took a dark turn when his casino license was revoked due to his drug use and shady associations. For a Bignan, losing that license was like losing a piece of his identity. With his career in ruins, Ted focused on his most prized possession, his stash of silver. Buried in a desert vault, Bignan had accumulated millions in silver bars, coins, and valuables. But as his life unraveled, Bignan became paranoid about his fortune. Friends said he was convinced people were after his silver, and maybe they were. Then, in 1998, Ted Bignan was found dead in his Las Vegas home.
Casino executive Ted Bignan died in 1998. His death controversial, first ruled an overdose, then reclassified as a homicide.
The scene was suspicious. Pills scattered, heroin nearby. It looked like an overdose, but something didn't add up. Soon, rumors of foul play surfaced. His girlfriend, Sandra Murphy, and her lover, Rick Tabish, were charged with murder, accused of plotting to kill Bignan and steal his silver. The trial became one of the most sensational cases Vegas had ever seen, with details of betrayal, greed, and addiction capturing headlines. Years later, the case remains a dark mystery. Some believe it was murder. Others think it was an overdose fueled by his dangerous lifestyle. What's clear is that Ted Bignan's life and death were a tragic testament to the risks of living on the edge. He had everything: a name, a fortune, a legacy, and lost it all in the most shocking way. Stu Angar, the legend who couldn't escape his demons. Stu Angar is often regarded as one of the greatest poker players of all time. His natural talent for the game was unmatched, and his ability to read opponents and make lightning-fast decisions earned him the nickname The Kid. Angar won the WSOP main event 3 times, a record that still stands. His first victory came in 1980 when he was just 26 years old, and he quickly followed it up with another win in 1981. Angar's aggressive style and fearless approach to the game made him a legend. At his peak, Angar was earning millions of dollars and living a life of excess. He was known for his extravagant spending, often carrying large amounts of cash and placing massive bets on everything from poker to sports. However, Angar's brilliance at the table was overshadowed by his personal demons. He struggled with drug addiction, particularly cocaine, which would eventually lead to his downfall. Angar's addiction became increasingly severe as his career progressed. Despite his success, he would often disappear for days at a time, engaging in drug-fueled binges that left him physically and mentally depleted. His once vibrant personality began to deteriorate, and his ability to perform at the poker table suffered as a result. By the late 1980s, Angar had squandered most of his fortune on drugs, gambling, and a lavish lifestyle. In 1990, Ungar made a brief comeback, winning the Amarillo Slim's Super Bowl of poker, but his addiction continued to take its toll. His health deteriorated, and his financial situation became increasingly dire. Despite winning the WSOP main event again in 1997, his third victory, Ungar was broke just months later. He had borrowed money from friends to enter the tournament and used his winnings to pay off debts and fuel his addiction. Ungar's tragic end came in 1998 when he was found dead in a cheap motel room in Las Vegas. He had no money to his name, and the once great poker legend had been reduced to living in squalor. His death was a sobering reminder of the destructive power of addiction, even for someone as talented as Stu Angar. Erik Lingren, the golden boy who fell hard. Erik Lingren was once one of the most respected and successful players in the poker world. With 2 World Series of Poker, WSOP bracelets, millions in tournament winnings, and a reputation for being a fearless competitor, he seemed to have it all. Lingren was not just any poker player. He was a key figure during the poker boom of the 2000s, a time when the game was growing in popularity thanks to televised tournaments and online poker. He was even named the 2008 World Poker Tour Player of the Year. Lindgren's success allowed him to live a life of luxury. He bought extravagant homes, drove the best cars, and traveled the world playing in high-stakes games. To the outside world, he was living the dream. But behind the scenes, Lingren was struggling with a debilitating gambling addiction that went far beyond poker. He bet on sports, made reckless wagers, and continually pushed the limits of his financial stability. As his gambling spiraled out of control, Lindgren's debts began to mount. He borrowed money from friends, fellow poker players, and even business partners, often under the guise of covering short-term expenses. But the reality was that he was using these loans to feed his addiction. By 2012, Lindgren's financial situation had become untenable. He owed millions of dollars, and his reputation in the poker community was shattered as his inability to repay debts became widely known. Lindgren's downfall culminated in filing for bankruptcy in 2012, where he listed debts totaling over $10 million. This was a stunning fall from grace for someone who had once been at the top of the poker world. Despite multiple attempts at rehabilitation and efforts to regain control of his life, Lindgren's struggles with gambling continue to this day. His story serves as a powerful reminder that even the most successful players can be brought down by the dark side of gambling. However, Lindgren's financial troubles didn't end there. In 2015, he filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection again in Nevada, listing liabilities of over $8 million. Among his largest creditors was PokerStars, to whom he owed $2.5 million, stemming from a loan made during his time as a full-tilt poker pro. The second bankruptcy filing highlighted just how deep Lindgren's financial issues ran, exacerbated by poor financial management and continued gambling problems. Despite these challenges, Lindgren continued to participate in poker tournaments, and his name still carries weight in the poker community. Jaimie Gold. In 2006, Jaimie Gold became an overnight sensation in the poker world. He wasn't just a typical poker player grinding away at tables for years. Gold was a Hollywood talent agent who entered the World Series of Poker with a mix of charisma and confidence that made him stand out. And stand out he did. In a single event, Gold took down the biggest WSOP main event in history, walking away with a jaw-dropping $12 million, the largest prize ever awarded in a poker tournament. What made Jaimie Gold's victory so captivating was his unconventional style of play. He was brash, talkative, and played mind games that unsettled his opponents. Gold talked his way through hands, convincing players to fold monster hands and giving the audience a poker performance unlike anything they had seen before. But beneath the charm and table talk, Gold was riding the wave of the poker boom, winning at the height of poker's popularity with millions of eyes watching. His win, however, came with a cloud of controversy almost immediately. Not long after his historic victory, Gold was embroiled in a legal battle over his winnings. A friend and business partner, Bruce Crispin Leiser, claimed that Gold had agreed to split the winnings from the main event in exchange for helping him recruit celebrities to play in the tournament. When Gold refused to honor the deal, Leiser sued, freezing half of Gold's $12 million prize while the courts sorted out the dispute. Gold's initial rise to fame had all the makings of a Hollywood script: charisma, luck, and a massive payout. But his fall from grace came just as quickly. The legal battle over the money dragged on, and while it was eventually settled out of court, The damage to his reputation was already done. Many questioned whether Gold's win was a fluke. His subsequent poker performances didn't live up to the hype of his 2006 victory. He failed to replicate his success, and over time, Jaimie Gold's name became more associated with his legal troubles and the spectacle surrounding his win than his actual poker prowess. In the years following his WSOP triumph, Gold faded from the poker spotlight. He continued to play in tournaments but never reached the heights he had in 2006. He dabbled in various business ventures, including poker-related projects, but nothing seemed to stick. For many, Jaimie Gold became a symbol of poker's unpredictability. One day you're on top of the world, and the next, you're embroiled in lawsuits and struggling to maintain your status. Despite the controversies and the questions about his poker skill, Jaimie Gold's name will always be etched in history as the winner of the largest prize in WSOP main event history. But like so many before him, he found that in poker, winning big doesn't always mean staying on top. Scotty Nguyen. Scotty Nguyen is a name that's impossible to ignore in the world of poker. With his infectious smile, unmistakable charisma, and iconic catchphrase,
"You car gonna be all over, baby."
Nguyen became one of poker's most beloved and recognizable figures. Born in Vietnam and moving to the United States as a teenager, Scotty's rise to fame wasn't just a poker success story. It was the story of chasing the American dream. In 1998, he reached the pinnacle of poker by winning the World Series of Poker main event, pocketing $1 million and instantly earning legendary status. Known as the Prince of Poker, Nguyen wasn't just skilled. He was a showman. His table talk, his fun-loving attitude, and his ability to charm both his opponents and the audience made him a fan favorite. Nguyen didn't just play poker, he made poker entertaining. Over the years, he added more WSOP bracelets to his collection, cementing his legacy as one of the game's true greats. But for Scotty, poker wasn't just a career, it was his life. And when you live your life on the poker felt, the stakes can get dangerously high. While Scotty's early success was meteoric, the cracks began to show as the years went on. Behind the scenes, Nguyen struggled with alcohol abuse, a demon that would eventually catch up with him in the most public and embarrassing way possible. In 2008, at the prestigious WSOP $50,000 HORSE Championship, Nguyen's battle with alcohol was on full display. During the tournament's final table, a heavily intoxicated Scotty verbally lashed out at other players, tournament staff, and even fans. What should have been a crowning moment for the Prince of Poker turned into a disaster as the poker world watched his unprofessional and erratic behavior unfold. Despite winning the event and earning over $1.9 million, the victory was overshadowed by his drunken tirade. The poker community, once enamored with Scotty's charm and fun-loving attitude, turned sour. His reputation took a serious hit, with many fans and players alike losing respect for the once revered figure. Scotty had gone from the life of the party to the player no one wanted to sit next to. But Nguyen's struggles weren't just confined to that one infamous moment. The years that followed were marked by inconsistency, both on and off the felt. While he still managed to post respectable results in tournaments, it became clear that his personal battles were affecting his game. His once dominant presence at the tables began to fade, as did his place among poker's elite. In recent years, Scotty has made efforts to clean up his image and address his issues with alcohol. He's spoken candidly about his struggles and has worked to rebuild his legacy. But the damage was done. The poker world remembers Scotty for his rise to the top, his incredible personality, but also for the fall that followed. Scotty Nguyen's story is a reminder that poker isn't just a game of cards. It's a game of life. And sometimes, the greatest challenges aren't the hands you're dealt at the table, but the battles you face off of it. Victor Bloom. In the world of online poker, few names have ever sparked as much fear, excitement, and mystery as Isildur I. At the height of poker's online boom, Isildur I appeared seemingly out of nowhere, like a ghost in the digital halls of high-stakes games. Behind the screen was Victor Bloom, a young Swedish player whose fearless, hyper-aggressive style left both fans and opponents in awe. He wasn't just a newcomer. He was an online poker sensation, and his claim to fame was nothing short of extraordinary. In 2009, Isildur I began playing in the highest stakes games on Full Tilt Poker, taking on the likes of legends like Tom Dwan, Phil Ivey, and Patrick Antonius. And here's the thing, he wasn't just competing, he was destroying some of the best players in the world. In just a few short weeks, Victor amassed millions of dollars, making waves that reverberated through the poker community. His wild swings, enormous pots, and relentless aggression became the stuff of legends. For a moment, it looked like the mysterious Swede was untouchable. But in poker, no one is invincible. Victor's meteoric rise was followed by an equally spectacular downfall. It all started with his now infamous clash with Patrick Antonius. In one of the largest hands in online poker history, Victor lost a staggering $135 million pot to Antonius, a blow that signaled the beginning of his undoing. But that was just the tip of the iceberg. Shortly after, he played Phil Ivey and Tom Dwan, enduring massive losses that wiped out most of the fortune he had built. The fall wasn't just financial. In December 2009, the poker community was shocked to learn that several top pros had shared hand histories of their matches against Victor, using the data to gain an unfair advantage. This revelation left a stain on what had already been a brutal downswing for the young phenom. What started as an incredible ascent ended with Bloom losing over $4 million in the span of just a few weeks. Yet, despite the staggering losses and the controversy surrounding his fall, Victor's story didn't end there. His reputation as a fearless competitor never wavered. Victor eventually revealed his identity in 2011, and while the mystery was gone, his talent wasn't. He continued to play in high-stakes games, earning back respect, if not all the fortune he had once held. Victor remains one of the most captivating figures in poker. His wild roller coaster journey, from skyrocketing wins to devastating losses, serves as a cautionary tale of just how fast fortunes can change in the high-stakes poker world. His rise was meteoric, but his crash was equally swift and brutal. Gus Hansen. There was a time when Gus Hansen was considered one of the most dangerous and unpredictable players on the planet. Known as the Great Dane, Hansen's hyper-aggressive and unconventional playing style took the poker world by storm in the early 2000s. He wasn't afraid to put his opponents to the test with massive bluffs and wild plays that others wouldn't dare to attempt. His fearlessness paid off. Hansen claimed 3 World Poker Tour titles, raking in millions and earning a reputation as one of the most exciting players in the game. Hansen's poker brilliance seemed unstoppable. By 2004, he was inducted into the WPT Walk of Fame, and his unpredictable tactics had garnered him a devoted fan base. Unlike many players who followed a conservative, math-based approach, Hansen relied heavily on his instincts, his reads, and his raw ability to apply pressure. This strategy helped him secure several 7-figure tournament wins, propelling him to superstardom in the poker community. His fearless nature made him a dangerous opponent, but also an entertaining one. People tuned in just to see what crazy move Gus would pull next. However, with high-risk poker comes high volatility. For Hansen, the swings weren't just part of the game, they were his trademark. While his aggressive style won him millions, it also led to staggering losses. Hansen transitioned from the tournament scene to the world of high-stakes cash games, where the stakes were even more brutal. Playing in games with blinds so high they'd make most players sweat, Hansen found himself losing millions almost as fast as he had earned them. Between 2009 and 2014, Hansen experienced some of the most brutal swings ever seen in poker history. His losses in online poker alone were staggering. Tracking sites like High Stakes DB reported that Hansen lost more than $20 million on full-tilt poker over the span of just a few years. His swings became legendary, not for their size, but for their sheer relentlessness. Even as other top players started to tighten up and play safer, Hansen continued to push the envelope with his fearless yet often reckless style. Despite his deep losses, Hansen remained a figure that fascinated poker fans. He wasn't just a player, he was a character, always smiling, always upbeat. Gus never let his massive swings affect his love for the game. In interviews, he maintained that poker was a long-term game, and he wasn't too concerned about the temporary downs. But for many, his losses were hard to ignore. He had gone from being poker's golden boy to its cautionary tale. In recent years, Hansen has largely stepped away from the public poker scene, though he still occasionally appears in high-stakes games around the world. His legacy, however, remains twofold. On one hand, he's remembered as one of the most exciting and innovative players the game has ever seen. On the other hand, his monumental losses have made him a poster child for the dangers of the high-stakes lifestyle. Gus Hansen's story serves as a reminder that, in poker, fortune can turn on a dime. One moment you're at the top of the world. The next, you're facing losses that most can't even fathom. For Gus, it was always all or nothing, and sometimes that gamble didn't pay off. Paul Magriel. Paul Magriel, known to many in the poker world as X22, wasn't just a poker player. He was a mathematical genius. Before his poker career took off, Magriel was regarded as one of the best backgammon players in the world. His mastery of the game earned him the title of World Backgammon Champion in the late 1970s, and he went on to write some of the most influential books on backgammon strategy. His ability to break down games into pure math and probability set him apart, and it was only a matter of time before he applied that same brilliance to poker. When Magriel transitioned into poker, he brought his deep analytical skills to the table. He had a unique ability to calculate odds and make decisions based on the cold, hard numbers, often outthinking and outmaneuvering his opponents. But Magriel was more than just a serious competitor. He was a quirky and eccentric character who quickly gained attention in the poker world for his odd behaviors, like exclaiming "quack, quack" when making a bet. His strange antics, combined with his undeniable talent, made him a cult figure in poker. Magriel's mathematical mind helped him cash in at multiple WSOP events, but his successes at the poker table never matched the heights he reached in backgammon. While he certainly made a name for himself in the poker community, the game never seemed to offer the same spark that backgammon had for him. Despite this, Magriel became a regular figure in the poker scene throughout the 2000s, even as his results began to dwindle. But behind the quirky exterior and genius-level intellect, Magriel's personal life was anything but smooth. As time went on, it became clear that he was struggling, both financially and personally. Despite his accomplishments, Magriel was reportedly living in poverty toward the end of his life, often spotted wandering the streets of Las Vegas. He was a far cry from the brilliant backgammon champion who once held the gaming world in awe. Magriel's struggles with finances were a mix of poor decision-making and the volatility that comes with gambling. Unlike many of his poker contemporaries, Magriel didn't amass huge winnings or sponsorships. His decline became an unfortunate symbol of the brutal reality that not everyone in the poker world lives a life of fame and fortune. For Magriel, the thrill of the game was always more important than the money, an admirable trait, but one that left him without the safety net many of his peers enjoyed. Tragically, in 2018, Paul Magriel passed away at the age of 71. His death marked the end of a remarkable yet often heartbreaking story. In many ways, Magriel was a genius who couldn't quite find his place in the world of poker, but his contributions to backgammon and his memorable presence in poker will never be forgotten. Paul Magriel's story serves as a reminder that even the most brilliant minds can struggle in the high-stakes world of gambling. For every success story, there's a tale of someone who, despite their talents, faced challenges far greater than the game itself. David "Chino" Ream. David "Chino" Ream is one of poker's most talented yet controversial figures, a player whose incredible skills at the table have often been overshadowed by his personal struggles off of it. Chino's poker career took off in the mid-2000s, and by 2008, he was a force to be reckoned with. His breakout moment came when he made the final table of the World Series of Poker main event, finishing 7th and pocketing over $1.7 million. Ream's combination of strong instincts, fearlessness, and technical skill put him on the map as one of poker's rising stars. But his success didn't stop there. In 2011, Ream solidified his place in poker history by winning the inaugural Epic Poker League main event, taking home an additional $1 million. With millions in winnings and a resume that boasted appearances at poker's most prestigious final tables, Ream had all the makings of a poker legend. However, behind the scenes, Ream was struggling with a darker issue: gambling debts. Despite his massive tournament wins, Ream developed a reputation for borrowing large sums of money from fellow poker players and failing to pay them back. These debts were more than just rumors. They became well known in the poker community. Fellow pros, such as Justin Bonomo, publicly called him out for his unpaid loans, leading to a serious hit on Ream's reputation. Ream's debts didn't just harm his relationships with other players, they cast a shadow over his entire career. No matter how successful he was at the tables, the controversies surrounding his financial behavior were never far behind. His involvement in the Epic Poker League even came under scrutiny when the league declared bankruptcy shortly after Ream's victory, leaving many wondering if his debts were somehow connected to the league's financial collapse. Despite the controversies, Ream remained a dangerous opponent on the felt. In 2013, he won the WPT World Championship, earning another $1.1 million, and yet again showing the world that when it came to pure poker talent, he was among the best. But even with these high-profile wins, Ream's personal life continued to be marred by his financial irresponsibility. The constant cycle of winning big, accruing debts, and struggling to pay them off made it difficult for him to shake the negative image that had grown around him. Chino Ream's story is one of incredible highs and equally dramatic lows. His natural talent and undeniable skill at the poker table are overshadowed by his struggles with addiction, gambling debts, and controversy. While he's proven time and time again that he can compete at the highest levels of the game, his personal demons have kept him from fully capitalizing on his potential. Today, Ream continues to play, but his legacy remains complicated. He is a reminder that in poker, talent isn't always enough. The game may offer the allure of fortune and fame, but without discipline off the felt, even the best players can find themselves on the brink of ruin. And there you have it, the incredible and sometimes tragic stories of poker's greatest falls from grace. From legendary victories to devastating downfalls, these players remind us that in the world of poker, the game isn't over until the last chip is played. But it's not just the cards that matter, it's how you play the hand you're dealt, both on and off the felt. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the world of poker's most famous rises and falls, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to Aces Full Poker.